It was apparently an embarrassing moment for Mrs. Johnson. Do you have any regrets about that?
No, I don't have any regrets about it at all. Why should I be upset by the fact that she was embarrassed? That's her problem.
Stupid. A man comes into my life and I have to compromise? For what?
Because naturally I love to respond to hate, I found it to be really funny if I were to put lashes all over my face.
Somebody coming in here being like, you're ugly as when you're bald. That's my fan. I'm not your friend.
I'm getting that.
Oh, sorry. Ew.
How do you feel though about constantly being scrutinized?
I don't care. Your problems with me are not my problems. Those are your problems. How could you not say cunt? Like, that's cunt. I feel like a lot of the beefs or quarrels that I've had, of course some of them I've started because I'm a troublemaker. I love it. Yeah.
I love posting crazy things just to get people's reaction. I do what I want to do, and I don't care what people think about me.
I gotta be the bitter black bitch because I have something to say about it.
Because you have feelings.
And then here you got fucking coon head ass T.I. Like, T.I., you out here trying to fucking promote this white bitch. Like, they got your wife on VH1. Whitey got your wife on VH1 and that bitch can't fucking read.
See, this is why autumn is my favorite season. Totally copying me, dude. I kind of wish I was born in the fall, I'm not gonna lie. Hello, bitches. Back again with another vid, and obviously, ambiance. Let's get to the source material. When women, particularly and specifically black women, are spiritual, loud, esoteric, in nature, confident, they are met with subsequent critical acclaim and ridicule by the culture. Often when women cannot escape this unruly persona that society has casted upon them, they embody this persona wholeheartedly. Society is shocked yet simultaneously mesmerized as they witness an alchemist at work. With an emboldened sense of self and the ability to weaponize the demonization society has casted upon her, she recognizes her abilities as power and uses her polarizing qualities as a means of monetization. I call it the Medusa effect. In this essay, I highlight the many similarities between women who give off this effect, and I do so by evaluating their psychology, and I break down their power schemes using the book 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Again, to reiterate what I'm saying, I'm basically talking about some badass women. I feel like these women often reveal so much about society. When a woman really steps into her power and uses her polarizing features, whether this be speaking too much, being too opinionated, being too loud, being spiritual, especially when you're a woman of color or a black woman, and using those polarizing qualities as a means of alchemization and monetization and using it to get an advantage in a way. It's about time that we discuss cool, powerful women, especially black women, taking their power back and saying, you know what, I don't care if you think that I'm scary. Good, you should be scared. That's really what we're trying to get to today. I'm assuming a lot of people out there know who Medusa is, or if they don't know, I just want to give you a quick summary on my mom. Oh my god, and as you can see, I'm over here mixing Y2K X90s circa 1920s with this feather bow. All you need is a fan, a feather, and boom. Bitch, you have a costume. Where was I? Sitting on my dress. Ah, baby. So, with those not familiar with my mother, I'm going to give you the 411 on Medusa. Basically, Medusa was a young priestess in training. She was serving the goddess Athena. She respected Athena so much, she wanted to dedicate her entire life to Athena. She worshipped the ground Athena walked on. As the story goes, Medusa was actually a beautiful young woman. She had suitors of all ages, of all races, of all genders and everything like that. It wasn't even just her outer beauty, it was her inner beauty that emanated and made her alluring. She just was a very unique individual, and her devotion to her spirituality made her more attractive. She was basically Athena's top student, but over the years, Athena recognized that Medusa was favored by many, and Athena had a problem with it, even though Medusa didn't see it like that. And one day, her lover Poseidon, god of the sea, arises from the shores and thinks he's gonna visit Athena, gonna see his girlfriend or whatever. He stumbles upon this specimen and realizes that she is the most beautiful, enchanting woman he's ever laid his eyes on. But Medusa couldn't care less for this man. Like I said, Medusa is very focused. She's very tuned in to her spiritual devotion to Athena. Legend has it that Poseidon deflowered her unconsensually in Athena's temple. Athena blacked out and said, obviously it's your fault. You seduced my man and you must pay for it. So Medusa gets turned into a beast. She's got snakes for hair. She can now turn men to stone with just one glance of the eye, and boom, niggas is frozen, dead, like she was one powerful lady. One day, she's like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to use this to my advantage. I'm going to alchemize the power and feel powerful within my being. And if you think about it, she is still one of the most powerful sorceresses in Greek mythology. Instead of succumbing to the tragedy of the curse, Athena recognized her abilities as power. Like a phoenix, she rose from her ashes and grew confident in her abilities. Fucking fire! Like, I'm going to recognize the power within these gifts that I've basically been given. Thanks, Athena. She doesn't even care that, men are coming after her, trying to kill her at this point. Once pursued, now perceived as a threat. So men would come after her and try and kill her, but she would obviously turn them to stone. And she wasn't giving a fuck because at this point, she's completely desensitized to people trying to, come for her. So one day Athena says, what the hell? I casted that beast of burden upon her as a punishment. She is not supposed to be enjoying this. So she sends Perseus to slay Medusa, and eventually, Perseus is clever enough to see through Medusa's, tricks, I guess, cuts her head off, and her head is now used as a shield, which I find so interesting. That was the Greek version of Medusa. This wouldn't be my video if we didn't go into the speculations, if we didn't go into the different ways the story can be told. In the essay Modern Medusas, Rethinking Monsters, Silence, and Cinema, Amy Hines Scott states the following. In the feminist revision, Medusa has finally found her voice, but in the retelling, the voice has become almost exclusively the voice of white, middle-class women. This quote jumped out at me for several reasons. The first reason being that this gave light to what I'd been processing in my head for years. We as a culture so often view Medusa through the lens of a middle-class, heteronormative white woman. Those who obtain presence in feminist spaces victimize her and have yet to see the power that is obtained because we are too preoccupied with making sure that she's not perceived as a villain. Well, lo and behold, the reality is society is going to view powerful, destructive, polarizing women as villainous anyways. So my question is, why are we so obsessed with always trying to perceive specifically Medusa as a victim in these feminist spaces? And this is strictly my opinion, but I don't see victimization as empowering. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a denial of sexual assault. This isn't a denial of what happened to her in any way, shape, or form. It's just that I simply refuse to see her story as tragic, as a tragedy, when essentially she became her own god. Snakes represent healing, wisdom, and sovereignty. Snakes are also associated with women and female sexuality. The truth is, and this may offend some people, but in white feminist spaces, they tend to water down and victimize and pity sexual assault victims Meanwhile, women of color are obviously not afforded the same vulnerability. There's also talk and speculation of Medusa actually being a black woman. So there are two historical accounts in which the myth of Medusa is placed in northern Africa, more specifically Libya. Diodorus Siculus recalls Medusa as an Amazonian queen, along with her sisters, the Gorgons, ruling in the area of Lake Tritonus, also more specifically known as Libya today. The second account being, in the mid-century BCE, the Greek philosopher Herodotus states that Medusa and her sisters, the Gorgons, lived in the land of Libya. Could Medusa's snakes be a metaphor for gorgeous black African goddess locks? Could the paralyzation power that she had over men be some sort of allegory or metaphor for the European fear of black bodies, black women, polarizing women, powerful women? A lot of people, especially black women, can relate to the archetype of Medusa, being seen as a black woman, a confident black woman throughout this world, and having to go through so many hurdles and obstacles, and people being intimidated by your presence as a black woman. The vilification of confident black women who, can be polarizing sometimes, or just step into their truth and use their abilities, their gifts, are vilified oftentimes in the media. There is a lot of vilification for black women who step outside of the boundaries, outside of the lines and the confines of society, and accelerate in their own power. And what does it mean to not give a fuck?
Male or female, I don't want to talk to you, homie, hit my email. My mentality is like professors grading papers, cause you know it ain't correct if I ain't looking at a check. Staten Island, where the young and wild and want respect. They wanna see you capped in like a pilot on a jet. Who got it? You got it? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Sliding through with watches to cop a few products to Tiffany. I'ma do pop and rock every time a new victory. Tryna turn tides, wanna get rid of me. It's we washing clothes, flows out of nowhere. You got a part in those. I'm part monster, part Martian, part dominoes. Whoa, cause my delivery hot, lyrics she got, they come 20 a pop and not dollars either. How the student wants to fight a teacher. Son, this was rap 101, just like a high fever.
When it comes to the ladies who display these Medusa-like characteristics such as untethered, esoteric, and spiritual devotion, groundbreaking anarchist aura that could not be ignored, Azealia Banks is definitely the first person to come to mind. From endless feuds with powerful figures in the entertainment industry to giving one of the most powerful and wealthy capitalist overlords of our time a run for his money. The power of Azealia Banks cannot be ignored. Many view her as a fool, but fools are often the only ones who poke fun at the king. Much like Medusa, Azealia is no stranger to the wicked ways of men and has endured a tremendous amount of hate and abuse, specifically in the entertainment industry. Medusa had been through hell and back, just abused by the patriarchy. This goes without saying that women who really and truly give off this Black Riot Girl effect, this Medusa effect, not giving a fuck, not caring about what society thinks, whatever, you have to acknowledge the abuse that went on to get them to this point of no return, essentially. And my hands are shaking, but I'm not stopping until this video is done. One thing about me is I was cursed with determination and the ability to just not give a fuck, because I feel like I've been through the ringer in terms of just my social standing and becoming a social pariah. Essentially, I've been this kooky all my life. People see me as crazy. I've gotten to my own point of no return. I'm going to do what I want because the madness works for me. What the hell? Born and raised in Harlem to a struggling, mentally deranged, and physically abusive mother, Azealia found liberation through the arts and many creative endeavors. She described her home life as cold and tough, and this obviously shaped her view of the world from a very young age. Nevertheless, she grew to be successful and remained a force to be reckoned with. Azealia maintains a boisterous repertoire for being quite literally a menace to the Hollywood elites. She is not afraid to out these people in their ways, and she doesn't really care about social standing. She doesn't care who these people are. She doesn't care if she's beefing with entire countries. She's gonna go there. While some may argue that the gift of the gab is Azalia's biggest downfall, I argue that it is her biggest asset and power.
According to the r/astrology subreddit, JStews does an excellent birth chart interpretation of Azealia Banks, and if you're not really interested in hearing about the astrological makeup of a person, the symbology that the astrology of a person can represent, then you can go ahead and skip this part. It states, looking at her birth chart, she has the fixed star Algol conjunct her ascendant. And all I can say is, wow, that matches her energy perfectly. Located in 26 degrees of Taurus, Algol, aka the demon star, is notorious for being the most evil star. It represents the myth of Medusa, violent outbursts, beheadings, or figuratively losing your head over something, and primitive female sexual energy. According to the source, Algol can indicate a person who stands up and speaks out about injustices which they feel passionately about, and who attracts difficult/intense life situations, but who also has the ability to handle them. Negatively, it is said that Algol folks will be cruel, harsh, brutal, destructive, etc., etc. So, conducting all this research on Medusa, obviously, it was quite fitting to see that Azealia has Medusa basically on her ascendant. So, as a Taurus rising, she's already seen as somebody who is very fixed in her ways, somebody who's very possessive, someone who's also very beautiful. So, if that wasn't enough, Azealia also has a song titled Ice Princess, in which she cosplays the ice version of Medusa. I definitely do think she is consulting an astrologist, or she just knows herself that much. And that does fall in line with the Black Riot Girl identity, spiritual devotion, and knowing thyself, essentially. So let me in. Her motives is frozen, giving chill pill to them polars, corrosive, the coldest, city is a tundra, stay focused, no wonder, frigid princess come from cold cash, and them ice chunks, stone frost and saline pumps, Rolls Rice, Snow White up. So to my understanding, these lyrics and the rest of the song is basically about how she is so cold that she's untouchable, kind of like a god-like figure. So case in point, Azealia is one frosty bitch. At one point in the song, she talks about polarizing people's profits, which is, again, very on brand for her since she is considered a Hollywood menace.
Now, much like Azealia, icons like Doja Cat, Eartha Kitt constantly seem to stir up controversy in a very similar way. All three are no strangers to being depicted like villains in the mainstream tabloids, and often face the same tired, run-down critiques. I like her, but she's too loud and opinionated. I hate that I like her. She's so creative, but let's just focus on the music. Time and time again, the mere existence of these women in the public eye reveal so much about society. The need to control women, misogynoir, and maintaining the illusion of the perfect black pop star girl. Opinionated, boisterous women are meant to be seen and not heard. We don't want to hear that you are an actual human being with background stories. We don't want to hear your political takes or stances because they might be a little bit different from mine. If you are a celebrity, you are a puppet. We control you. You would be nothing without us. Honestly, your job is to produce content and entertain, inspire, and if you cross those boundaries, you're basically over. What these people seem to forget is that the creative process is not a fun one. It's messy, and oftentimes good art comes from the most broken and darkest of people. Should they not be able to tell their stories as well? One commonality these women tend to share above all is an unsteady, abusive upbringing and often a shaky rise to fame. Eartha Kitt was quite literally born out of rape. She was hassled with numerous obstacles early in life. At the age of, I don't even know, in early life, she was plopped on a plantation and immediately seen as an outcast because she was mixed. The black folks on the plantation called her Yellow Girl. Back then, mixed kids and girls with yellow complexions, kind of like mine, were seen as bad luck. Essentially, you belonged nowhere. She bounced from home to home for a while, just trying to hustle pool and survive. The abuse was almost hellish. She claimed to be raped by the age of 6 and physically tortured with a twitch by strangers. She was full of spunk, but in no way did she deserve the circumstances thrown her way at a very young age. Often, Black riot girls have these deep childhood wounds that project itself outward as a tease or boisterous, a trickster-like personality in adult life. When I was 18, I was homeless. I ran away from home. I joined several organizations that would help homeless people out. I was all into activism. I met this lady, I'm gonna call her Lacey. So, Lacey had gotten her kids taken away from her and abused by the foster care system once again. So we decided to, start a little riot group. We broke into ACS buildings. Well, we didn't break in. We came in unannounced during the daytime. We did a lot of protesting on trains and in front of the ACS buildings, in front of the foster care buildings to prove a point. And we would record it and post it all over social media. One day we were on the trains and we were doing our usual chants for the abolishment of the foster care industry. And we were talking about homelessness, all of that. While I'm recording this woman speaking, I guess in my mind I thought it was a little bit funny that we were out here, and so I could be seen snickering behind the camera while she was talking. While none of, the matters that we were talking about was funny, somebody actually pointed out that, if this is so serious and kids are getting taken away and abused, especially black kids, why is she behind the camera laughing? And immediately I stopped laughing. And Lacey said, she's laughing out of the pain. She's not even really finding this funny, but she's sort of using the humor as a mask or a way to cope. She's laughing behind the pain because she's had her family members go through the same thing. And it was through that moment that I realized that, I had put on this sort of persona, hiding behind this I don't give a fuck persona, laughing, and basically I was masking the pain. And, yeah. Now, back to the story. Throughout this abuse that Eartha endured, she remained determined and faithful to her love of the arts, kind of like Azealia Banks. Eventually moving to New York City with her aunt out of Christian duty, touring the world for dance and theater, and becoming a worldwide sensation. She went on to create hits such as Santa Baby, I Want to Be Evil, and Ça C'est Bon, marvelous works of art. However, throughout her career, she was not afraid to be outspoken and radical with her opinions. In fact, in 19-something, when invited to First Lady Johnson's luncheon, she stood up and asked a question to the president about daycare facilities and the American people. It was a scandal, apparently. It was shocking that this black woman stood up and asked our president a question about, her silly little daycares. It was embarrassing to the First Lady. How dare you embarrass me and the rest of the women at the table, who are all white, by the way. It's embarrassing, and this is why we don't invite black women anywhere, because they're boisterous, and you voicing your opinion about how fucked up the politics are right now is unseen, and it was especially unladylike in that time to be political in any way. Eventually, she was blacklisted and condemned from working in America, so she moved back to France and remained in France for work. The public outrage that, Eartha received at the time was scandalous. It was like, how could you do something like that? People were against her. People were taking sides. People were calling her villainous, demonic, all the good things, right, that we as black women are subjected to when we raise our voice or decide to, voice our opinion about something. Again, an example of fucking my life. A lot of people think I'm weird, but it is what it is. I have stuff to say, and no one, i.e. my family, is going to tell me shit about it, so.
I think when I shaved my head, it just gave me this sense of self that was different from any other time in my life, and I feel younger. I almost feel like 10, 15 years younger than I've ever felt. I feel like I'm kind of just pushing myself out there and just accepting myself for who I am, no matter who can see me. It's kind of like I ripped off my shell.
Ever since Amala shaved her head, she had been told that she was ugly, going through mental illnesses, demons, everything under the sun. But I think the public fails to recognize that while under contract and what seemed to be her prime, circa 2020 Doja Cat, she had no control over her image at that time. She often complained about the industry and not wanting to do this on Instagram Live. She was also very vocal on her stance about stan culture, so she seemed to resent people who put her on a pedestal, essentially. But Doja Cat is no stranger to controversies as well, and scandals that made her look unfavorable in the public eye. Thing about her, she was known for her campy, outlandish ideas in music and dance. She's kind of always been a weirdo, but she was definitely molded a certain way by the entertainment industry for a while, in my opinion. Until she put her foot down and decided to take control of her own image. But this pink thing, not for me, not my color. I like the look of demons. So sick of scrutiny and feeling underwhelmed by her own art, she completely revamped her image and transformed herself into the Scorpio rising we all know and love today. From being this Britney Spears kind of pop star to just doing whatever the fuck she wanted. She was always rapping, she was always a bit of a weirdo, but people are now seeing it. I have to be quite honest, as a Scorpio rising, I'm quite a fan of this vampire darkness. I respected it. Like I said, as a Scorpio rising and as a businesswoman, I have this theory that true art is art because it was expressed no matter how dark the subject matter is. And as a person who speaks on the darker issues in life, such as taboos, psychology, power, death, it's obviously not going to be everyone's forte, which is exactly the reason why I appreciate a fellow Scorpio rising who stands in their power and takes control of their authenticity. Hello, my baby. This brings me into Part 4. I got this deck of cards, but they're sex cards. And so each deck of cards is a different position. That's what we're giving right now. You understand? That's what Black Riot Girls gives. That's what Medusa gives. That's what girls who don't give a fuck give. You understand me? Domination. Part 4. Alchemy and the 48 Laws of Power. What is an alchemist? According to the Oxford Dictionary, an alchemist is a person who transforms or creates something through a seemingly magical process. I do believe these women possess a rare ability to turn negative circumstances and polarizing qualities into a newfound power of some sort. Whether this be through the means of income, commanding court attention, which we'll talk about, or keeping others in constant suspense, taking control of your image and your art, and not letting others define you. In the 48 Laws of Power, a world-renowned bestseller, Robert Greene talks about certain factions of power that enable one's success using examples from famous rulers such as Julius Caesar, Roman Empire, Han Dynasty, etc., etc. Just a disclaimer, it's said that the book 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is banned in several prisons across the US. I'm gonna fact check to see if that's true. Obviously, me being me, I had to read it. It presents itself as an amoral kind of book, and it's really just a book about human behavioral patterns. And if my lashes are falling off, we fought to the death. We did. I'm not here to have a moral or religious debate. I couldn't care less. As it gets colder, my power grows. The shit I do for content. Law 6. Law 6. Demand court attention. So according to the 48 Laws of Power, demanding court attention is essentially the building blocks, the cornerstone, the foundation of Black Riot girls and girls who give off this Medusa effect. In a way, this law is applicable to almost all the women here. Medusa emanated undeniable charm and beauty. Her defiance of cultural norms and dedication to Athena made her stand out, even if she wasn't meaning to. She had absolutely amazing allure, amazing charm. Like, this woman was charming without even trying, and it's because her spiritual devotion and her devotion to the arts made her so alluring. It's like, wow. These women all possess unique qualities that make them unique from everyone in their field, whether this be a unique style, undeniable talent, and or incredible ambiance, if I do say so myself. Azealia is talented at almost anything in the artistic realm. Let's be honest, that is not up for debate. Same with Doja Cat, also a fellow New York native, might I add. Well, she moved to Cali, but I think she is from New York City, I'm not sure. You'll have to fact check me on that. Eartha Kitt, singing, dancing, theater, they had the attention. All eyes on them. Law 17. Surprise, bitch. Surprise, bitch. Surprise, bitch. Surprise, bitch. Surprise, bitch.
Backstage at the Kanye West show and stood next to him on purpose. Like, I dare him to say something to me. I dare him to do something. Like, I would love it. Have my sister with me. Like, we would have jumped here.
Also known as the element of surprise. Oftentimes, with these kind of women, what makes them really powerful is the ability to be unpredictable in what they say, how they say it, who they say it to, and where they go. According to the 48 Laws of Power, this creates suspense and respect. Azealia Banks is unpredictable as fuck. She's as predictable as the weather. Scandal creates talk. Talk generates attention. And where there is attention, there's moolah. Let's just talk facts. They've been scared of this woman for years. From calling out big names like Oprah, Beyonce, Diplo, not to mention getting trapped in Elon Musk's house, nearly exposing the madness that goes on in the industry. She's created a reputation for herself that gives off insubordinance and the disobedience of a black woman. Once again, I'm not condoning any actions here. All jokes aside, this woman was locked in Elon Musk's house. She got her phone confiscated afterwards, and Elon Musk lied about not knowing her. Another example of this, Doja Cat. Well, it's no secret that Doja has been making music with RCA Records for a really long time. It was only until recently that she blew up over the pandemic with albums such as Hot Pink, Planet Her. She is a hot selling point. She's basically a cash cow for the industry, basically a cash cow for RCA. However, she's explained countless times how she's been overworked, mistreated, and underwhelmed by her own creations. Not to mention the shitty contract she's under that basically has her working like some sort of slave puppet until she's completed 6+ albums. So just to reiterate for that, I don't know much about music and the industry, but I've seen enough videos to know that they don't get out of certain contracts, celebrities, artists, musicians, whatever, until they've completed a certain set of albums, because having a record label is apparently like having some sort of like sugar daddy that's a record label company pay for your music, pay for the music videos, writing the music, getting it out, the producers, the production, the show-ups, the hair, the makeup, everything. The record label pays for that, and you basically have to pay the record label back over time. And artists don't make money until they start touring their album. So basically, the album is like the advertisement for the artists, and artists only make money when they tour. Overworked while seeing an image of who she's not be displayed and plastered amongst billboards, she's basically staring back at a fragment of herself in the mirror. If you think about it psychologically, this can really break someone's mind, especially being a creative person, not just a creative person, but a Scorpio rising, and, you know, seeing your art and seeing you, and the two don't mix together. It's like mixed signals. It's like, what the fuck is going on? This isn't me. I need to radically change my image. I need to radically change myself. Like, this is not me. I don't associate with this. I'm telling you, this is the way Scorpio risings get, because I'm a Scorpio rising, and literally I've gone through so many dramatic changes over the past year. And you guys know this, quitting social media and quitting having smartphones. And so obviously the me who I was back then when I had all that shit is not the me now you see in front of you today, is not the me being influenced by social media in any way. This is a completely different me, derived from authenticity, born from originality, born from creativity. This is not someone who has been influenced by the illusions and delusions and Neptunian ways of social media. Detached, discontent, you know, she sees this and, you know, she's angry. She starts arguments with a series of people who have obviously, you know, bought into this parasocial scheme. So, you know, she lashes out on them. Detached, discontent, and disconnected with the person who is in the mirror, the person who these stans idolize, or, you know, on a daily basis. She lashes out, shocking the masses and killing these fans off for good. And from the ashes of the hot pink era Doja arises a scorpionic Scarlet, a wild woman who thoroughly expresses herself through her art, even if others are cautious and unwilling.
I feel like I spoiled a bit of this law in the last section, but it's really the ability to throw all perceptions and preconceived notions of you and your image and alchemize that into something completely different. Something that society can no longer optimize, make sense of, or categorize. So on page 195 it reads, Keys to Power. The character you seem to have been born with is not necessarily who you are. Beyond the characteristics you have inherited, your parents, your friends, and your peers have helped to shape your personality. The Promethean task of the powerful is to take control of the process, to stop allowing others that ability to limit and mold them. Remake yourself into a character of power. Working on yourself like clay should be one of your greatest and most pleasurable life tasks. In essence, you are an artist. A real life example of this that
obviously comes to mind was Eartha Kitt. She was born into quite the nightmarish, hellish predicament that is foster care system in South Carolina. People told her every day that she would not amount to anything and belong nowhere. However, she took the enemy's word and spun it on its head. Orson Welles deemed her as the most exciting woman in America. Orson Welles was a fellow theater actor. She took these negative attributes and radicalized it into theater success. And when the president's wife blacklisted her for speaking her mind, she stoically moved back to France and recreated herself and generated more success. Once told she was stupid and uneducated, but ended up speaking more than 7 languages fluently thanks to her travels. This woman was absolutely relentless. So the obvious example of this, power being put to use was Doja Cat when she transformed, but we already talked about that. So let me introduce you to the fictional villainess, Poison Ivy. So basically, Poison Ivy had a really abusive father who constantly berated her for being socially awkward and a misfit because she had a skin condition and she had to stay indoors for a big part of her childhood. And eventually, this man was arrested for domestic violence against her mom, killing her mom, and Poison Ivy was sent to live in foster care or with her aunt or something. And I don't like to diagnose characters, but Poison Ivy has always been one of those characters with neurodivergent, maybe even autistic undertones. And she used this, in a sense, to study really, really hard in school, becoming a Nobel Prize-winning botanist and biologist, concocting a pheromone lipstick that made people fall in love with her and eventually die. She killed her father and then became the world's most feared villainess. So my point is, neither one of these women succumbed to their situations and straddles for pity. Ultimately, the outlier and the outlying factor made them who they are. The base of their character was transformed and remolded and rebranded, if you will, to something these women can have control over, something tangible. It is, in essence, playing a part. The art and power of recreating yourself requires the mind of an actress and the vision of a director. To truly transform yourself at a moment's notice and take control of your image is true power.
When you hear Azealia Banks, you think controversy, immediately almost. Is that how you use Twitter? Just sort of trolling everyone?
I think a lot of times I say things that would be said here and you'll get it, but in 140 characters, it's yeah, I knew I was gonna make it. I was whatever, I'm the best, it is
If you are unsure of a course of action, do not attempt it. Your doubts and hesitations will infect your execution. Timidity is dangerous. Better to enter with boldness. Any mistakes you commit through audacity are easily corrected with more audacity. Everyone admires the bold, no one honors the timid. So, earlier this year, Doja Cat made headlines when she played the part of a quote-unquote demon lord, as she likes to call it. Fully committed to the role of her new identity, she tatted herself with dark symbology and fully embraced it for what it was. In fact, during the time she went viral for starting those Twitter feuds, she started to leave Easter eggs for her next album. By entering her new era with boldness, she was once again commanding court attention. There's a difference between saying, stream my album, guys, if you want to, all shy and shit, and then all of a sudden, shifting identities and shifting the room, producing a brand new sound and persona so people can say, what's going on with her. Another thing is, I hate it when people demonize the dark arts. It's like, what are we demonizing dark things for, black things, things we can't understand. You know, just because something has dark or gothic undertones does not mean it's demonic.
Yuri does not shuffle cards like this. This is embarrassing.
So we got the Joker, essentially the Fool card. Fool reminds me a lot of Azealia Banks. People think she's a fool. People think she's Joker. Joker, Jester, Fool. All intertwined, all in one. Remember that in life, Jokers are the only one who get to make fun of the king. That's all I gotta say. Thank you and good night.
Birds do it, bees do it, even educated fleas do it. Let's do it, let's fall in love. In Spain, the best upper sets do it. Lithuanians, and let's do it, let's do it, let's fall in love. The Dutch in old Amsterdam do it, not to mention the Finn folks in Siam do it. Think of Siamese twins, some Argentines without means do it. People say in Boston, even beans do it. Let's do it, let's fall in love. Romantic sponge, as they say.